Hello and welcome to Curdcast, the podcast for people who like to eat cheese. We're on the set of Julie's art studio. For those of you who don't know, my name is Jen Mason. I am the founder of Curdbox, and Julie, Faith Van Balzer, is my guest host.
I like to think of myself as a sidekick.
A sidekick? Yeah, guest host is not, no, she's my regular host, co-host. And a working artist, and we're hanging out. We're like so excited. It's the first time we've done it in person together for 2.5 years. 2 years. Oh my gosh.
I know. Almost since the baby was born.
Yeah, you've had a baby since then. Mm-hmm. So anyways, for those of you who don't know, Curdbox is a subscription box that we send to your house once a month. It's 3 cheeses, 3 pairings. They all revolve around a theme, and you can eat along with us. Julie and I will eat along. We've got our little cheese plate here. We're going to talk about it. Julie's going to ask me good questions. She's going to try to stump me. I might lie and make stuff up. Or I might tell the truth. And if you want to listen along with us and eat along with us, you can go to curdbox.com and get your own Curdbox. And I think we should just jump in.
Okay.
Well,
I will put the cheese in front of you. Excellent. Since you are the monger and I am the eater, and you can tell us all about it.
Excellent. So one of the reasons why I'm always excited to have a cheese plate with you, but there's always like a specific reason why I'm excited to have it with you. And that is because this one, the theme is Beyond the Big Apple. And you used to live in the Big Apple.
I did.
In Times Square.
I did. From 1999 till 2015, I did. And that feels like a lifetime ago, even though it was so many years,
right?
It was
so great. I definitely slept on her couch multiple times. And you have to keep in mind when you're going to sleep on somebody's couch, if it's a party, people are on the couch sitting for quite a while. So you're the last person to go to sleep. But always a good time. So we wanted to.
Back when I thought that 10 o'clock was early, that 10 o'clock was the beginning of a party, and now I'm out. I'm done.
I think in her mind, she's like, oh, I should go back and apologize to Jen and make amends because we flipped. We flipped. I totally understand. I'm like, are you sure you want to do something at 7 at night? Which we are tonight, filming on the later side. It's almost Julie's bedtime. It's almost 6:40. And we are going to do this and then bedtime books with the little one. So, cheese, you can have it anytime. You can have it right before book time. So I'm working from if you see me looking down today, I've got all my notes because we want to make sure I'm always giving you the right information here. So we're going to start with St. Stephen. It's by Four Fat Fowl. And okay, so this is hilarious. The name of the company is Four Fat Fowls, and it's sort of a nod to this colonial landholding system. So Stephen Van Rensselaer, who Stephentown, New York is named from, which is where this is made, was a landowner, and he was especially forgiving when it came to rent. A year's rent cost only 1 day of labor, 20 bushels of wheat, and 4 fat fowl. So we've stopped paying in fowl for the most part, I think, here at least in Massachusetts.
It's been a long time since I've paid in fowl.
Nobody's come to my cheese store and offered to buy a camembert for a fat fowl. But I think that's really funny. That's what they named their company. But St. Stephen is this award-winning cheese. It is a triple cream cheese, and it's a favorite. It's a triple cream that comes. And everybody who got a box got a half wheel. It comes in a wheel that you could fit all on a cheese plate. Some triple creams you wouldn't buy a whole one. You could buy a whole one, definitely. So this one, as it ages, it will get softer and softer and creamier and creamier. This is kind of my favorite. If I can't have it super creamy, this is sort of the texture that is my favorite. It's sort of like if you left butter out on the table. It's like right at that, like when you expect the butter not to be as soft as it is, but it's been sitting out.
This is delicious. And I have to say, whenever I think of brie, I always think of the inevitable rind eating thing that comes up. Because I think brie has a somewhat controversial rind.
It really does. And you don't have to eat the rind on this. If you don't like the rind, you don't have to eat it. I'm surprised. I usually like the rind on a brie. Sometimes if I'm not liking a brie cheese, it is the rind that might get a little bitter. It can be more bitter.
This is not a bitter rind.
Not at all.
This is nice.
Yeah,
really,
this
really
is
nice.
Really nice. But you'll all get different wheels. We're sharing, everybody gets a half wheel. So 2 people will have the same experience. But don't feel bad, but do know brie etiquette, which is if somebody puts brie out on the table, do not scoop out the good inside and leave the crust. I hate, but it's not just me. It is bad etiquette. Everybody in France would just be really mad.
Have you ever been where somebody actually scooped out the inside
yes.
of the brie?
Yeah,
really?
Because what ends up happening is, and it usually happens when you get a bigger piece of brie, like off of a bigger wheel. So traditional brie can be larger. And then they sort of just knife away the inside. And then what you're left is like with the brie carcass. And it just looks awful on a plate. So the trick is to cut down, take your whole piece, and then just eat the inside. But just don't leave a carcass.
I was going to say, as a hostess, though, you can kind of cut that off a little bit by pre-slicing a lot of it.
Perfect point. So if you're a hostess and you have people who don't know this, don't assume they're rude, be nice, but also go in there and clean up the carcass.
But that gets harder with a baked brie, for instance.
It's definitely hard with the baked brie. And a baked brie, what you want to do is, if you can, cut off the top. If it's not baked, if it's just baked in a container versus in like in puff pastry. If it's in a puff pastry, usually nobody doesn't eat the rind because it's all gooey melted together. But otherwise, taking off the top and baking it with some topping on top of it removes that rind, and then it just like you leave the bowl behind, which is okay. So beautiful, creamy.
Yeah. The thing that's so nice and interesting to me is how the texture of the inside. So like the inside of the brie, meaning the part that's like further from the rind, and then the part that's closer to the rind is 2 different things. Like it's really soft close to the rind, and then it's firmer in the center. Very interesting.
And that's called the cream line. So because that's where it will get creamy. Let's see if I can do this creamy first. No, I totally can't do it. There we go. You see around the edge there. It will get soft from the outside in because these are surface ripened cheeses. So really yummy. Super excited that we are doing this and a camembert in the same vein. So that was our St. Stephen's by Four Fat Fowl. Now we're going to go to the Hudson Valley. We're still in New York. We're in Old Chatham, New York. This was founded by Tom and Nancy Clark in 1993. Oh, and this cheese we're going to try is sheep and cow. So we're going to get sheep, cow, and goat in this box, which is always fun. You don't have to do that when you're making a cheese plate, but if you're like, oh, I want to be really diverse and have everything represented, having different textures of cheese, but also different milk types will get you a very interesting cheese board.
Well, this reminds me a lot of times, obviously I'm an artist. We're here in my messy art studio, but like one of the things we talk about all the time with my students, at least I do, is I talk about having both variety and unity.
Yes.
And so this is kind of the same thing, which is you're having variety, and that's the different kinds, right, of milk, but there's unity. A, they're all cheeses, but B, like a camembert and a brie are good friends.
Yes, very, very, very much good friends. And I know I was listening to your podcast, because Julie does another podcast, and she was talking about tonal values. And I think you can also get tonal values in these where you're like, oh, this one is just, it tastes the same, but feels way more dense, or it feels the same, but it has more texture to it. So there's really interesting variations when you can try them together. So Hudson Valley Camembert, and this was Nancy and Tom were sort of before this. Their sheep dairies were exceedingly rare. They're still rare compared to cow dairies here in the U.S. They were getting some sheep's milk cheese from Dr. Dave Galton, who's a professor emeritus at Cornell University. It's like so interesting. The cheese world is fascinating. Anyways, they started making this camembert. It's a beautiful, again, it's a soft ripened or surface ripened cheese.
What makes the difference between a camembert and a brie? I don't understand which is which.
So it's the cultures that they put in it. So when you start with the cheese, you start with milk. And you put culture in it. You put different things in it. And what you put in that gives them 2 different textures. This one,
I was going to say, I now feel that the texture of this is more like a chev, like a goat cheese. And less like the brie is like a creamier.
And it's a little more salty. This one also has weirdly, it's not weirdly, but what I find interesting about it, it's not weird, interesting, is it has sheep's milk, cow's milk, and cow's milk cream. So
so the one cheese has 2 different kinds of milk in it?
Yeah. So basically it's got the highest fat milk cream that you can put in it from a cow, and then just regular cow's milk. So they basically, so sheep's milk has a much higher fat content. So I'm guessing what they tried to do is sort of beef up the cow's milk by adding extra fat to it to make them somewhat equal.
So we're getting closer and closer to butter, is what you're saying, which is fine with me.
Oh my goodness, that is so. Oh my gosh, it just makes you want a baguette.
And this rind is also totally mild, not bothersome.
These are, and if you don't think you normally, if you're like, oh, I don't like rinds, I do recommend you at least try one bite of it, a little bite of it. And you can decide. I have really high bitter receptors. That's why I don't like an IPA that much. And so I have that real sensitivity.
Why you didn't like olives originally, and you're not always a fan of coffee and stuff.
Yeah, and I don't like bitters in my cocktails unless they're really sweet, because something has to cancel that. For some reason, these rinds, for the most part, I do eat. Maybe it's just because I want every single bite of the cheese and I don't want to waste any. So, but yes, this is a beautiful cheese. Now I want to talk for a second, now that we've gone to the second one. This one is 6 weeks old. The St. Stephen is only 3 weeks. So this is technically twice as old as that one.
This is like a cougar situation.
It is.
Camembert's moving in on that break.
But you can kind of tell that it's a little bit creamier. Like the first one is creamier, but it's like room temperature butter creamy, and this is getting closer to, like, I don't want to say sour cream because that gives you a different taste, but it's definitely creamier, right?
Cool.
And it's because it's had a little more time to ripen. Our last cheese, not our last bite by any means, is this one. This is Finger Lakes Gold, which is a funny name because it is not gold. It's a goat's milk cheese. So it's nice and white. It's a very white cheese. And it is called Finger Lakes Gold, and it's by Lively Run Dairy. This one is, these guys are in Interlaken, New York.
It's a little bit of a stinky rind.
Yes. So this is a like young milk Gouda. This Gouda is only 3 to 6 months old, so it's not going to have a lot of crystals, or it's definitely, chews super easy. But you get that tang from a goat's milk. It hasn't been aged so much. The goat's milk taste hasn't been aged out so much that it just tastes sweet, which some do. And it is beautiful. We don't have caramel in this box, but this would be great with a caramel. Either caramels, with the candies, or caramel sauce. It'd be great with anything citrusy, especially lemony.
I feel like it would be good with something sweet.
Yeah.
But I'm curious because it does have kind of that goaty aftertaste, which I like. So I'm really curious how it's going to pair with things, because that's always, to me, one of the things that pairings do, right, is they get that aftertaste and change it.
Yeah, exactly. And it's kind of why in our store and in the Curdbox, we have 6 flavor profiles that we pair cheeses with: sweet, sour, salty, spicy, nutty, and umami. We don't do bitter, which is a flavor profile, but bitter is usually seen in cheese as a defect. It's seen as a positive in like a cocktail, right? Like if you made a sweet cocktail without any bitters in it, right now these days, bitters are the hottest thing. There's root beer bitters, there's mint bitters, there's bitters for everything. But bitter brings out bitter in a cheese. So if you had something that had a bitter taste to it and you eat it with cheese that had any little bit of bitter, it would now taste more bitter. So it would exaggerate the part you don't want to exaggerate. Sweet doesn't necessarily do that. If you have sweet, it doesn't necessarily make more sweet, but bitter is a weird flavor profile. So I'm particularly careful about matching with bitter, and why we don't look to pair. Can we
talk about the rind on this cheese?
Yeah. So this is it's definitely a natural rind. It is a Gouda style cheese, but made in New York. And it is edible. I would say you're welcome to eat it, but it's earthy.
I ate mine, and I think it changed the flavor of the cheese.
Yeah,
like it's strong.
It's very earthy. It doesn't taste like you're licking a floor or anything kind of earthy, but it's not mushroomy. What would I say it's like?
I was trying to think how to explain it too. It's intensely strong in almost, not quite, but in a slightly ammoniated way.
So let's see if I can, our light here is a little bright. I'm going to rotate it so you can see. Yeah, I mean, it does taste, it's going to change the flavor
Mm-hmm.
of the cheese because the cheese has got a much sweeter profile. And then you eat something that's not sweet.
Mm-hmm.
It definitely has it's just sort of more earthy, grassy kind of flavor. It's a natural rind. So it's just, you know, what grew on it as it was aging. And if you don't like it, you don't have to eat it.
That's what I always say to my
But
child.
this one is edible.
I say, take a bite. If you don't like it, you don't have to eat it. But if you don't take a bite, you don't know.
Exactly. Okay. So those are our cheeses. What we do now is dive into the pairings and then we'll try things together. So I think we should start with our popcorn. So this is Cheesy-Feta Popcorn with a za'atar. And this is made in Brooklyn, New York. So, you know, essentially, I'll go put it out. So, first of all, I love the way this one looks. Oh, goodness. I keep doing this right in front of the light. Let's see if I can sneak up. So you can see the powder. I can smell it. It smells good. Talk about
Yummy.
tasting like gourmet popcorn. So, you know, we
not too salty.
Not too salty. It's really more flavorful than salty.
Mm-hmm.
And it is feta cheese flavored, which you would think would add more salt, but
almost a lemon dash in there,
right?
I feel like.
So I think that's coming from the sumac. So the za'atar spice for this is made with thyme, sumac, chili flakes, oregano, sesame seeds, and salt. So they obviously, we don't see any whole sesame seeds in here, so it's all ground up, and it makes a light dusting.
It does say lemon juice concentrate on the list of ingredients. Interesting.
Very good.
Yum.
So, you know, when you open this box, you might think, they stuck popcorn in here. Why would they do that? And it's really because we want you to experience like all the different ideas you can put on a cheese board. Excuse me. You know, it doesn't have to be water table crackers and plain or Marcona almonds, which are lovely, and apricot jam or dried apricots. It can be more interesting. You can bring in flavors the other way, especially if you're going to have this with kids. Yeah, it gives you a visual texture. It gives you a mouthfeel texture. So really think about what else do you have a favorite popcorn brand out there, and what would you pair with it? What would you put on the cheese plate with that? When you're out there and you're and you go to a fair or someplace and there's like a stand that has like 30 different kinds of popcorn. I've been to places that have like dill pickle popcorn and pickles on a cheese plate are a thing.
I was going to say, you could also have like potato chips on a cheese plate.
Chips,
I mean, I think that Curdbox slogan, right, is like, stop eating boring. And it's so true because I think I'm always surprised when I open the box and there aren't crackers. And I'm like, oh, what am I going to eat the cheese on? And it's like, you don't need a cracker to eat cheese, but it's so ingrained in me that I do. And then I'm like, oh no, you just need like a fork or a finger and you can eat the cheese and then have something crunchy with it on the side. But it doesn't actually have to be a slave to being that cracker cheese combo. We
do have this habit of growing up in a cheese plate is sliced cheese and Ritz crackers. Ritz crackers, great. Sliced cheese, great, but that's just like one way to do it. Right. And we early on were trying to decide if our subscribers wanted crackers. It was very easy. There's so many crackers out there for us to put a different cracker in every box. But what we found was when we asked, they wanted 3 interesting pairings, and it was great if
cracker
it was an interesting. Exactly. So what we pretty much do is either like there's a perfect cracker that just calls to be put in here because of the theme, right? We're telling the story and it's the perfect thing to put in there. Or we have a cheese that needs a cracker because otherwise you're like licking it off your finger. So we try to have a surface when we use a cheese that has to have it, but otherwise we make sure it is there for a reason. Every part of this, all 6 pieces need to play their own part. You know, that's less important when you're at home and you can just throw some crackers on because you know your mother-in-law is visiting and she likes it when you put crackers on. And that is not for you, Missy, my mother-in-law. You will eat anything I bring over. You are always the best cheese taster. But you don't have to have a cracker. You can do something interesting. You don't have to have nuts. You can have what our next item is, which is our sweet chili butternut pepitas. So not pumpkin pepitas.
Interesting. I didn't realize that pepitas were seeds. Obviously, it seems obvious now, and not nuts. I always had mentally lumped them in the nut category. but it does mean for people who have nut allergies that pepitas are usually safe.
Yeah. And these are a sweet chili, so they have.
Ooh, they got a kick.
Yeah.
Ooh, my tongue.
And it depends which one you put in your mouth, because I haven't had one that is, and I'm not like, oh, I'm better with spice. She's probably much better at spice than I am, but it's in there, but it's got a good nuttiness. And again, we're gonna pair these with like that sweet goat's milk Gouda, sweet and spicy. I mean, right? We put dairy with
like I'm sweet and you're spicy.
I sometimes sour, or my daughter would say salty. I'm sometimes salty. But so this is made by, we've had these guys in a different form, Stony Brook, and they actually started out as a cookie business, and one thing led to another, and now they're Stony Brook Oils, and they take, these are essentially seeds from, I want to say they're waste seeds. They are using the seeds in a way that saves something that would normally be disposed of from another process. They make oil with some, and they flavor some other ones. When we've had some in the box before, you can look at our old boxes on our archive page and see what else we've had there. But this is especially good if you have anybody with a nut allergy, thinking of those little nibbly things that you can put on a plate that aren't nuts.
And around Halloween time, you can make your own pepitas.
Oh my gosh. So many ways to do that. You just Google flavored pepitas, and
when I was a kid, it was literally, we did the most boring ones, just salt, but it was still the super funnest.
Oh my gosh, it's a lot of fun. And what you have to do is have a kid sit there and pick them all out of the slimy orange
colander.
No, it's more fun to torture the children. This is why she only has a 2-year-old and not a 6-year-old. She hasn't learned all the good ways to make the children work. I survived. Okay. So adds a really nuttiness, and it's funny. There's a kick, and then, but like the surviving flavor is a nuttiness. So it's just a nice little, again, change in texture.
Cool.
So our last thing we're going to eat, and then we'll try pairing things together, is our apple crisp jam. So I couldn't do Beyond the Big Apple without putting apples in. And what I liked about this one is that it was different. So an apple jam, normally I'd be like, probably more like an apple butter. And an apple butter is good. I don't think that's bad. I would rather, I think if I was going to put apple butter on a tray, I'd like to make my own, because I think there's nothing better than sort of fresh apple butter, or even when it's we're not in apple picking season right now, so you can't, but like that is a beautiful thing to put, or even just some sauteed apples with it, and just beautiful fall flavors. But this felt more like I wanted to do something different. So I was really excited when we found this apple. And this one is made by Pixie's Preserves. They're in Waterford, New York. Guys, this is made batch by batch. We had hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of jars that they made for us. They make them one at a time. They don't double batch them, not one jar at a time, one batch at a time. They are so dedicated to the flavor that like it has to be made the way it has to be made. There won't be many times where you will get a product made like this really anywhere, but especially in Curdbox, it's difficult to find. And at the number of boxes that we send out, it's not 5 bottles, 5 jars. It's a lot of jars. So our big thanks to Pixie, and I hope you guys love them. We'll give you all their information so you can follow them afterwards too. But yeah, great. Let's try it.
Let's
okay, excellent. I have popcorn sticking to mine.
You're already pairing. You're cheating. That's like eating apple pie filling.
It really
100%.
is. Oh my gosh,
that was like eating apple pie filling. So good.
It is so much like that.
Steve's going to lose his mind with the leftover part of the jar.
We didn't leave him that much. Oh, well. So that was fantastic. So Pixie Preserves, just check them out. But now the important part is for us to try things together. So we've got a triple cream brie. The fluffiest kind of brie you can have is a triple cream brie, where they put more cream in it as well. Our camembert, which is so creamy, but in an entirely kind of different way. And sometimes the camembert can be a little more mushroomy, earthy. It kind of depends on who's making it. This one is not. This one tastes really bright and I don't know, easy to love. And then we have our goats. Where are you going to start?
Well, I'm definitely starting with the apple filling. And then I'm going to plunk some camembert on top of it, I think.
All right. I'm going to try the apple filling with some of our St. Stephen's, but I'm going to give it a little crunch because I like the little bit of chew because it has a little bit of oat in it. And
I feel that oat. That's why it's part of the reason I think it feels like pie filling so much.
It has a body. Oh my gosh.
So good. So good.
Wow. Those seeds on there it's funny. It's a total mental thing.
I'm doing seed chaser.
Okay, seed chaser. It's a total mental thing. I'm just biting into it, and like the minute my teeth crunch through that crunchy part, it changes the bite, changes the experience. It's like if you're in a room and the lighting is just right.
And I'm going to go with the combo I think is going to be weird.
Okay, go for it.
I'm going to go with the Gouda and the popcorn.
Oh, nice.
Not sure how that's going to work out, so.
I am going to do popcorn and the camembert.
It was delicious, actually.
Oh,
it was delicious. Okay. Let's
Okay.
go brie pepita.
I'm having trouble finding a bad bite. I mean, to be fair, I picked everything in the box, but I picked these things so far in advance that we have them in time for you.
So good. I'm going to have to do an apple chaser.
Okay.
Excuse me.
All right. I'm going to put some apple on the popcorn. This is weird. You always do this weird. Julie always picks the weird things. Like she dips the cheese in the cheese or pairs the cheese together.
Well, I think you have to push the box, right?
Well, that's what I'm doing.
All the possibilities.
Now it tastes like an apple chutney with the za'atar on there.
I have to say the other thing is we were a little bit naughty and took the cheese out of the fridge for this because we were in a rush. And even just the short time that we've been doing the podcast, I can see how much the cheese has warmed up and really changed the texture. It's so melty and soft now. It's really lovely.
It's so good.
Delicious.
I'm sorry. That apple pie crisp. It's fantastic.
Fantastic.
Oh, this is where you wish that we also sold it in like a gallon jar for a backup.
I gotta make bigger batches.
It's really beautiful. Yes, start
placing your orders. Brie it.
Awesome.
Yum yum yum. Oh, Jen, this is a good box. You can come over again.
Excellent. Where will we record our next podcast from?
I know.
Who knows?
Let's do it from the beach.
Oh, the beach would be so nice.
Next time in Italy.
Oh, let's go to Italy. Italy or beach. We'll do one of each. But
do you have an Italy trip coming up that people can go on?
We don't, but we should. Don't you think we should?
Yes.
Well, you can write into hello@curdbox.com and tell us you'd like to go on a trip to Italy. We have a great summer plan for you. We have some really exciting news coming soon. So if you don't already, go to curdbox.com and say you want to know about the newsletter because we have something very cool coming that we've been working on for 4 years. And it does come from Italy and you can drink it. So you should tune in for that. We've got some great boxes. We've got at least one more guest curator coming this month. It's a perfect time. And if you want to, just go to curdbox.com and get your box and eat along with us. Makes
and
a
even
great
if you
dinner.
don't want to.
Yeah, you subscribe regardless. Even if you're allergic to dairy, subscribe and give it to the person who mows your lawn.
Right? It's very kind.
Or shovels your snow. I don't know where you live. There's no snow right now.
Give it as a gift. It's a great gift.
It is a fantastic gift.
My sister-in-law got it as a gift and now she's addicted.
Yes. It's good. Actually, we just love being able to tell you about new things, small makers, people that you wouldn't find out about any other way. Our tagline is stop eating boring. We look at Facebook, we look at Pinterest, we look at Instagram, and we're tagging and liking and sharing those things. And then we go to the grocery store, and I am guilty. Like everybody, I tried, like every time I go to the grocery store, I try to like tell myself, like put something more interesting in the cart. But we grab the same orange juice, the same milk, the same bananas, the same, and I go home with the same stuff. So we're trying to help you live more interesting lives by just sending you some cheese goodness once a month. So if you want to follow Julie, you can find her at what Julie 8. Julie, tell us about your podcast too, in case they want to know more about her creative side.
So I have a podcast called the Adventures in Arting Podcast, and you have to say it like that.
Yes. Every episode.
So my mom and I co-host this, and basically we talk about all things creative. We interview people sometimes. Jenn has been on the podcast to talk about cheese curation, and her former art life and all that kind of stuff. And it's just, you know, I always say this, it's for people who are interested in the intellectual aspects of talking about being creative. That's what we do. And
it translates beautifully to making cheese boards. Okay. So you can follow our friends that make St. Stephen at Four Fat Fowls. That's easy to remember. And remember, you can trade that in.
Is it the number 4 or is it the words?
FOUR. Okay. And our Hudson Valley Camembert is at Old Chatham Creamery. And then let's see, our Finger Lakes Gold is at Lively Run Dairy. I love that name. I kind of smile every time I say it, and I can think about all the goats. Oh, I forgot to tell you, they do goat yoga at Lively Run Dairy. I think that's very important. You should go write this down right now. At Lively Run Dairy. Go check out their goat yoga. If you're in the New York area, tell them Jenn sent you. And then our Cheesy-Feta Popcorn. By the way, they make other flavors as well. You might see them in a box in the future. They're at Zesty Z, because that's their name, Zesty Z. And then our sweet chili butternut pepitas are from at Stony Brook Oils. Remember, they also make oils, so check them out. Our apple crisp, they are not at anything, but you can go to their website, pixiespreserves.com. You can follow Curdbox at curdbox.com or at Curdbox. You can find us at curdbox.com. And we look forward to seeing you next month. And we'll see what we've got cooked up for you then. Thanks, Julie.